So we just arrived in beautiful Munich, the capital of Bavaria in southern Germany, where we will be staying for the next 4 days. On our agenda is a lot of watch shopping, sightseeing and trying some local cuisine, as my girlfriend visits Germany for the first time in her life. As mentioned in the last episode, we will also visit the Audemars Piguet House in the city center and made an appointment for that, with which the Dubai Mall boutique helped me a lot. Our luggage arrived safely at the belt, no damage or scratches to notice. First test passed for the level 8 voyagers. From the airport, it is a nearly 1 hour train ride to the city center, where we will check in at our hotel. For the stay, I booked the Cocoon Hotel at the Stachus. It is centrally located, close to all the attractions and shopping streets, and just a 5 minutes walk from the central train station. Checked in and time for a quick break after a total of 9 hours of traveling. The hotel reception is nice and friendly, the location is great, but unfortunately the room is super small and the hotel itself could have been a bit more luxurious for my taste. The price of $250 per night is quite high, but as I got to know, this weekend is the Adele concert, and due to that all hotels raised their prices quite a lot and it wasn't easy to find a room close to the main city center. Exploring the city now and getting some gifts for our friends at home. This nice souvenir shop has pretty much everything you can think of as a small gift from a vacation, and it also offers some traditional German wall clocks. Moving closer to the city center, we can find the first Rolex store, which is also one of the oldest watch stores in the city. The windows are full of watches, but for most of them it says for display only. Let's have a look at the selection they showcase over here. A nice 36mm black dial Oyster Perpetual. All the prices below are in euro by the way, so if you add 10% on top, you will have the price in US dollars. It's actually a quite easy conversion. Lots of stainless steel datejust and even more in two-tone. For the sports watches we can find a Submariner Bluesy and Submariner Steel and a Steel Sea Dweller in the back. Inside the store now, none of the watches here is for sale, but they have the new Bruce Wayne as a display piece, so let's try it on the wrist. The last addition to the GMT family, which comes with a black and grey bezel, we already know from the new two-tone and full gold GMT, which were released last year. Quite a nice watch and more subtle compared to the Batman and Pepsi. In case you fancy a more under the radar GMT, which you can wear daily to the office maybe, this might be your first option. I would still prefer a bit of color on the bezel, so I personally like the Batman and Pepsi more. The team at the store was super friendly, let us try all the watches we wanted to try and even offered to register us to a wish list. I was more than happy with trying the GMT, and since I don't want to start buying from too many stores, I friendly denied their offer to put me on a wish list. As there was no watch for sale, I left the store empty-handed. For any local client, I think this is a nice store to visit with a very accommodating team. Getting a quick snack now, the so-called Hackepeta. It's actually raw meat on a bun, and you can decide if you want beef or pork. One of my favorite German snacks you can pretty much have at any time. If you like raw meat, you should definitely try this. Strolling more through the city and looking for a nice dinner location. Pork is actually very famous in Germany since beef is kind of expensive here. Especially in Munich you will find all kinds of sausages or the famous German pork knuckle. So we decided for the Augustiner, which is another top-rated restaurant. Hey, cheers baby! Cheers! Ordered half a pork knuckle and a sausage platter. The stores are closed now and we are on the way back to the hotel for a good sleep. The program for today is to visit the Old Peter, a viewing point over the roofs of Munich, and later that day visit the German Museum, starting the day with a traditional German breakfast at Richard. Some white sausages, brezeln and coffee. We are now at the Old Peter, which is the oldest church in Munich, located just behind the Marienplatz. Anyone prepared to ascend the 300 plus steps up to the viewing platform in the 91-meter tower will enjoy a fantastic view across Munich. The Church of St. Peter sits on top of a small hill, now known as the Petersbergl, and has a history that stretches back as far as the 12th century. The first church there was built shortly after the city of Munich was founded in the year 1158.
It's made with bits of real panther, so you know it's good. It's quite pungent. Oh yeah. It stings the nostrils. In a good way. Yeah. Brian, I'm gonna be honest with you, that smells like pure gasoline. 60% of the time, it works. Every time.
The Marienplatz is the central square of Munich city center and part of the pedestrian zone. Since the founding of the city, the Marienplatz has been the center and heart of the city. Today Marienplatz is completely free of traffic. The subway station Marienplatz connects the whole city and is easy to reach from any outskirt via subway. Moving on to the German Museum now. The German Museum of Masterpieces of Science and Technology in Munich is one of the largest science and technology museums in the world in terms of exhibition space. The declared goal is to bring scientific and technical findings closer to the interested layman in an understandable way as vividly as possible. To this end, it shows the historical development of the natural sciences and technology as well as their significance for technical and social development using selected examples. All the different fuel engine types, and my personal highlight in the museum are all the old aircrafts. Here we can see a Junkers F-13, which was a passenger aircraft built entirely of metal. A world first in June 1919, its skin of corrugated sheet metal made it especially sturdy and weatherproof. And as you know, I'm a big fan of aluminium remover suitcases, so now you know from where the design inspiration comes from and its connection to German aviation history. A beautiful plane with an iconic design. Another iconic plane is this Junkers Ju-52, also called Andieu and Iron Annie, which is a transport aircraft that was designed and manufactured by German aviation company Junkers. First introduced during 1930 as a civilian airliner, it was adapted into a military transport aircraft by Germany's Nazi regime, who exercised power over the company for its war efforts over the objections of the company's founder, Hugo Junkers. The Ju-52 was in production between 1931 and 1952. In a civilian role, it flew with over 12 airlines, including Swiss Air and Deutsche Lufthansa, as both a passenger carrier and a freight hauler. In a military role, large numbers flew with the Luftwaffe, being developed on virtually all fronts of the Second World War as a troop and cargo transport. It was also briefly used as a medium bomber. Additionally, the type was deployed by other nations' militaries in conflicts such as the Spanish Civil War, the Chaco War and the Portuguese Colonial War. During the post-war era, the Ju-52 had a lengthy service life with numerous military and civilian operators. Large numbers were still in use by the 1980s. The next highlight is this Messerschmitt Me-262. The Messerschmitt Me-262, nicknamed Schwalbe in fighter versions or Sturmvogel in fighter bomber versions, is a fighter aircraft and fighter bomber that was designed and produced by the German aircraft manufacturer Messerschmitt. It was the world's first operational jet-powered fighter aircraft and the only jet fighter to see air-to-air combat in World War II. The Me-262 was faster and more heavily armed than any Allied fighter, including the British jet-powered Gloucester Meteor. The Allies countered by attacking the aircraft on the ground and during takeoff and landing procedures.
Well, like we were standing still. Blue leader to group, get off the air. Going by at 2 o'clock. What the hell is it?
It was the Messerschmitt 262.
So much to some of the highlights of the German museum. Time for a beer now before we move on for our dinner. The Code 1159 is doing a great job with t-shirt and shorts and is comfortable on the wrist even at a hot and humid European day. Another highlight in Munich you should have a look at is the surfer wave at the Eisbach. This river wave is the largest urban surfing spot in the world and always crowded, especially at the weekends. Despite being many hundreds of kilometers from the nearest ocean, Munich has a reputation as a surfing hotspot. offering one of Europe's best waves, and the Bavarian capital is actually the birthplace of river surfing. The city has been the center of surfboard riding on a stationary wave since the early 1970s. Up to 100 surfers daily hit the waves in the city's English Garden, and this is also the largest urban park in the world. Now we are already at day 3 of our first stop of the Europe trip, and today it is time for more watch shopping. The first store we visit now is Wempe, one of the big luxury watch boutiques that you can find in all major cities through Europe, and one of the authorized retailers for Rolex. Inside the store now, this chocolate dial daydate fully loaded with diamonds on bezel and bracelet is for sale, and one of only 2 Rolex watches that you can directly buy over here. The team is friendly and curious about my code 1159 since they have never seen it before. A highlight of the store is this Patek Philippe ultra thin skeleton. Nice to try it on the wrist, but a bit too much overall for my personal taste. In the shop windows are a lot of watches here. Everything except Rolex is for sale. For the Rolex display pieces we can find the usual suspects from the divers and field watch range. The second watch that the store offered to us was actually a fully loaded diamond style datejust for ladies. Overall we spent nearly an hour in the store and had a lot of chats and conversations about the watch market, watch collecting in general, Dubai and our upcoming trip through Europe. Nice to have met the salespeople here. But in case you want to buy a Rolex as a tourist, your choice is limited to heavy gold and diamond watches. Inside the Lange und Soehne boutique, looking for an 1815 auf und ab or up and down, how it's called in English, but only the small seconds version is available here. A nice surprise is that I could buy the watch tax free, and as you know there is quite a heavy tax in Germany, so they will deduct around 20% from the total price, and that's actually quite a good bargain then. But since it is not the model I am looking for, I will postpone a Lange purchase for another trip. Still nice to try the 1815, and as always it looks great on the wrist and matches nicely to my shirt. For the Patek Philippe boutique you need an appointment here, so we will postpone this for the evening. The next Rolex store is at the Odeonsplatz and also operated by Bucherer. None of the watches is for sale as always, and if you ask the store why none of the watches can be purchased, they will explain you that if they would offer them right away, all of them would sell and no one could try any of the watches or even have a look at them. The friendly sales staff let me try the new Air King. a model I have on my list as well. It sits nice and flush, but maybe it is a smidgen too big for my wrist. But somehow I also like the busy dial in the big size, and it kind of makes sense if you know the history of the watch, and it also increases the good legibility of the watch. The Omega Boutique on the Maximilian Street, the most expensive street in Munich, the new two-tone Speedmaster in display, and I actually asked the staff in the boutique if they would have any 321 or Snoopy for sale, but of course the answer was that they don't receive many of these pieces, and if they rarely receive one of them, they will only offer it to a local long-time Omega collector. And the last Rolex store in Munich is operated by Bucherer as well, with a huge selection of Rolex watches in the store windows. Another beautiful old building with a Rolex store that operates from here since a very long time. I ordered a datejust actually a few years, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, when my sister had her wedding in Munich, from actually this store, also because my sister had a good connection to the sales staff as she bought a lot of jewelry there. But the watch never arrived, and nowadays is also already discontinued. So I will probably stay a window shopper at this store. Also, all the watches here are for display only and nothing is for sale, especially not for tourists. Even though the market is down, you won't feel any of that inside the stores. If any of the watch YouTubers tells you it is easy to buy Rolex watches from the stores nowadays, I can only report you the opposite. Watches that are selling highly below the retail prices are not for sale, and only full gold or diamond pieces are available in just a very small selection of stores, and then usually they only have 1 or 2 pieces available. So probably it will be even hard for such pieces to find the right dial that you want. And why is that? I guess there are still many people who buy for their profiles, and any of the watches that sells at or above retail goes to well-known local clients only. I really wish for the good old days when you could still find some nice pieces in display and the watch hunting was more fun with a chance of a good catch. On our way to the AP House Munich now, which is located just a few meters away from the Odeonsplatz, situated in the heart of Munich, opposite the Bavarian State Opera. The AP House spans over 400 square meters, and upon entering the AP House, we encounter a modern bar that offers an array of beverages. These range from whiskey to coffee. The main space surrounding the bar is also home to a living room and dining area. Clients can sit and socialize or simply relax in a beautiful atmosphere related to the AP watches. For anyone requesting a private meeting or consultation, the AP House offers a private consultation room, which is also put to use by the resident watchmaker. Next we have a kitchen for client events with live cooking, and last but not least a cigar lounge with a special ventilation system. The cigar lounge offers some of the most coveted cigars in the world actually, but since I don't smoke cigars, I thankfully denied their offer. Time to try a few nice watches. This steel code 1159 with green dial and green strap is another favorite of mine of the code lineup. Simple and less quirky than my steel ceramic. A perfect everyday watch you can even wear to the office or also for high-ranking meetings. Also, let me give you one important info. There is a high chance that all the steel code of the current production might be discontinued in 2025. So if you want a steel code, you better be quick before AP stops offering them. a 38mm Royal Oak offshore. This model is not really for me, even though the baby blue dial works very well, and I wish AP would bring some more offshore options for men in smaller sizes. So the 38mm wears actually quite well. It could maybe be a smidgen slimmer, but in general the proportions work very well on my 6.5 inch wrist. A nice 37mm two-tone Royal Oak with white dial, and this is actually my favorite size of the Royal Oak. Don't be scared of the 37mm, the watch wears more like a 39mm and is for most people probably the right size. Moving on to the Odeonsplatz now, from where we will take the subway to the English Garden to meet some friends. The subway in Munich works fantastic. You will find subway stations all around the city, a train will arrive every 5 minutes, and the ticket costs only a few dollars. I would prefer the subway anytime over a taxi, as it is much faster and so easy to use. Here we are in Schwabing now, the place where I lived myself as a student. For nearly 2 years I lived in this beautiful city and wrote my diploma here. A time during which I started my passion for cycling, mountains, and spent basically all my spare time outside with friends. I would still consider Munich one of the best cities with the highest living quality all around the world and the best city to visit in Germany. Out in the English Garden now with some old friends that also stayed with me for 2 years in Dubai. And for the dinner we are in a traditional German beer garden, having some beef ribs and grilled chicken. Now it is already time to check out and continue our journey to the next destination. For that we will be using the high-speed train ICE from the Munich Central train station. The next city will be another European capital that features some of the most iconic monuments of Europe and is also known as the City of Light. The trip will take around 6 hours and I couldn't be any more excited to see this beautiful capital again. We paid around €300 for the tickets in first class, which is roughly the same like a cheap flight. But since you can skip all the security controls, luggage check-in and boarding time, it is much more convenient to take a train ride around Europe. And with that, we are at the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed Munich, learned a bit about this beautiful city and had some fun seeing me struggle with all the Rolex stores. The next episode will come in a few days on my YouTube channel. Until then, stay healthy and see you in the next one. Bye bye.